everybody, and welcome back to a new video on my channel. I'm really excited to be talking about today's video. I think it's a really important topic and something that, especially since graduating back in May, I've had to learn a whole lot about, so we can learn together. For those of you who are new, hi, my name is Zoe. I am 23 and I live in the New York City area. I recently graduated from college back in May and I'm trying to navigate the post-grad life, and there's been a lot of things I have had to learn about personal finance in the past year that I never really thought about before. And so in this video I'm going to be talking through a lot of the things that I've learned. I think I'm going to make this into a recurring series, so if you guys are interested in coming on this personal finance journey with me, then make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos. I think it is really difficult because I don't think a lot of us learn about personal finance in school as much as we probably should. It's a very big life skill, and yet they don't really go into a lot of detail about it. However, I have been thinking about that a lot, and I really think that part of the reason that is because it's so subjective. Everybody has their own opinions on it. Anything that I say in this video is of my own opinion. I am here and I'm open to learning. I want to learn a lot more, so any advice that anybody has, leave it below. And yeah, but just take everything that I say with a grain of salt, because I'm no expert. I'm just learning. I'm just another person, and I don't know a ton about this, but I'm doing my research and trying to learn. People aren't lying when they say that life is a little bit of a game. There's good luck, there's bad luck, but I do also think that there is strategy involved, and I think that one of the places where you can really use a lot of strategy is with your money. The only thing that you can really control is the time that you start putting your money into the bank. So I'm a big math person, so here's a fun little math problem for you. So let's say you're my age, okay, 23 years old. You start being smart with your money today. You invest $1,000, and then from here on out, you're gonna invest $100 every single month until you retire at, say, 60. You put that into an investment account or a high yield savings account that pays you a rate that has like a rate of return. And let's say that you expect that rate to be 5%. So when you retire, when you're 60 years old, which is 37 years from now, you come out with about $130,000. That's quite a lot of money. Now let's say that you wait and start investing when you're 30, okay? So you do that same thing. You invest until you're 60, you start with $1,000 and you put in $100 every single month. You wind up more with like $85,000 at the end. So the math doesn't lie. Time is the biggest factor that you can play whenever it comes to saving money and really maximizing your money. The sooner that you start being smart with your money, the sooner that you're going to realize the benefits and the wealth that it can start accumulating. So this episode today is going to be finance basics. I'm going to be going through a general overview of accounts that I think that you should have, concepts that you should understand, and a little bit of a budgeting breakdown. However, a lot of these things I'm also going to be going into more depth in future episodes, so like I said, make sure to stick around. I'm going to start with budgeting, because budgeting is obviously like the place that is your day-to-day money. It's what you're using right now, and it can make a real impact on the money that you have in the future. And I actually have a really exciting announcement, because I now sell my own budget template. So if you guys are interested in going and starting your budgeting journey, then you can purchase this template. It's literally $5. Just go to Etsy. The link is going to be in the description below, and this will help you start your budgeting and finance journey. The reason that I like budgeting is budgeting allows you a lot of control over your money. Being aware of where your money is, where it's moving around, what you're paying from month to month, and being aware of those overall trends and setting standards and expectations allows you to separate your money out. It gives you the chance to really purposefully choose money that you're going to be saving, but also spend guilt-free in the categories that you're spending in. If you're anything like me, for a lot of college, I didn't really budget anything, and obviously it's difficult in college because I wasn't really making any money either, but just knowing how much money I'm going to be spending in each category helps me to spend that money guilt-free. I'm not worried that I'm overspending, or if I am overspending, then I'm going to be able to do something about it, and I'm really aware of those kinds of trends. So when it comes to budgeting basics, what is there? When you're first starting out, the first thing that you should do is start by noting down all of your fixed expenses, the things that don't change month to month. So that's your monthly rent, your bills, utilities, any subscriptions that you may pay every single month. These recurring charges should go into the bills and subscription section. Next, you need to organize your expenses. Now this can be kind of overwhelming, and you have a lot of options on how you want to go about doing this. What categories are you most interested in tracking? Do you want really big categories that are kind of all-encompassing, or do you want to go more into minute details so you can really see the specifics of what you're spending on each month? I personally use an app called Mint. Mint connects to your bank accounts, and it will basically categorize all of your expenses for you. And you can also do your budgeting in there, but I personally like to use it to see my categories, and then I'll transfer that over into my budget tracker just to help me track everything in one place. I find the tracker on Google Sheets is a lot easier to use. Finally, create sinking funds. These are essentially a way for you to ensure that you are putting your money into your savings and you have a mix of short-term and long-term savings options. The way that I think about sinking funds is once I put my money into a sinking fund, that money is already essentially spent. Like, it's not part of my general expenses that I use on a regular basis. And I use that money for the specific category that it's in. So for example, I might have a flight fund. So whenever I buy an expensive flight, it's almost like since I've been contributing to this sinking fund every single month, it's like I've been spreading out that more expensive flight over multiple months. And because it's leaving a sinking fund, it's not really coming out of my normal funds, it's not coming out of my saving fund, it's coming out of its own specific fund that I've set aside exclusively for that purchase. So that is budgeting basics, like super basic, but I promise that another video is going to come soon where I'm going to talk a lot more about budgeting, different ways that people go about budgeting in terms of like ways to separate out your money and your savings, but like I said, that'll be a different video. So next I'm going to be talking about the accounts that you should have. Now, there is one account here that I am missing, and that is more of a general investing account. That is something that I am going to be looking a lot more into, and I don't feel quite comfortable talking about it on here yet. But just keep in mind that that is something that I think that is really important and something that I need to work on myself. First things first is a checking account. I think that most people probably have a checking account. A checking account is the basic of a bank account, really. You put your money in there and it sits there. You can take it out whenever you want. You can put it in whenever you want. Some of the disadvantages of a checking account is it doesn't usually get any interest on it, so it doesn't really have a rate of return. So essentially that means that you're not really making any money on that. The good thing about it though is it's really easily accessible. You can get at it whenever you want, which isn't always the case with some other accounts. For me personally, I tend to keep in there approximately the amount of money that I spend in 1 month. And this is usually just because I will take my rent out of there and then I'll pay off my credit card with it. In my mind, my checking account is kind of just a holding account. Money goes into there and then I move it around to wherever it needs to go. The next account is a savings account. Obviously savings are super important. The money that you should put into this account is something that you probably don't really want to be touching super often. You can definitely take money out of it from time to time depending on your bank's policies, but there's usually limits on that. I recently put my money into a high yield savings account, which basically, if you can't tell from the name, it accrues a lot more interest than a regular savings account would. So a lot of the regular savings accounts might be like anywhere from like 0.01% to maybe 1% if you're lucky, and a high yield savings account can be anywhere from more like 4 to 6%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, if you're putting like a decent amount of money in there, like let's say you put $1,000 in there and you get 5% back, then that's like $50 that you can get back, and oftentimes those are like on a month-over-month basis, or even if it compounds, it's worth it, trust me. Because if I'm only getting 1% interest, so that's $10 versus $50. That's $40 that you are missing out on. The next couple of accounts are also very important, and more of the ones that I don't think I hear about on a regular day-to-day basis. The first one is a retirement account. Now there's a couple options here that you can take for a retirement account. It might depend on the job that you have as well, whether they're willing to contribute or not, it just depends. But this is a absolutely I am not going to touch until I'm 60 kind of account, and oftentimes the accounts themselves are it's mandated, it's a law that you actually are not allowed to touch these accounts until you're like 60, or else you'll have to pay a price. A lot of companies will actually contribute to this account on your behalf as well, which is basically free money. For example, at my job will contribute up to 6% of my salary and match that money. So if I'm putting in 6% of my salary into that account, then they are going to put in that same amount into the account. So basically, I'm only giving up 6% of my salary into the savings, but then on top of that, I get what they give me, and it's literally free money. So you should really look into whether your company has that option for you. And if you're looking for a job, if you're younger, then finding out if a company does this is like a good thing to find out, because it can really make a big impact on your saving journey. Something to keep in mind is a lot of these accounts have yearly maximums that you can contribute to this account. So I'm talking like 401ks and Roth IRAs. Those are the types of accounts that you would have for this. If you are able to max out these accounts every year, then I definitely think that you should. Personally, I'm not doing that right now. I cannot afford that at the minute, but hopefully in a few years I'll be able to. If you can't afford to max it out, I would say definitely try to max out at least the amount that your employer will match, if that's an option for you. Okay, so the next account is an HSA or an FSA account. So these are both for health savings. And if you're still on your parents' health insurance, which I think you can stay on until you're like 26, this doesn't really apply to you so much. However, I went ahead and got off of my parents' insurance. My company has pretty good insurance. I'm actually going to be talking about that in another video if you're interested, even though it is very specific company to company, but hopefully I can talk about a few of the basics. But anyway, so whether or not you have an HSA account can really depend on whether you're still on your parents' health insurance, but it also depends on the health insurance plan that you take. So this is a universal thing. So if you can only have an HSA account if you are on a high deductible insurance plan. And there's a yearly maximum that you can contribute to this. The HSA, any money that goes into your HSA, you are able to use to pay for any kind of health-related purchases that you may need. So paying for doctor's appointments, paying for medicines, paying for new glasses, all of those things you can use your HSA account for. The reason why an HSA account is so good, it isn't taxed. These, like the dollars that are going in there are pre-tax. They take it out before you pay any taxes on it, and any purchases that you made are also not taxed. So when you take it out, it's not taxed. So that's the difference between some of the retirement ones. They may go in without being taxed, but when you take it out, you may have to pay tax, or you have to pay tax when it goes in and you don't pay tax when it goes out. So that's the disadvantage with a lot of retirement accounts. But the HSA account, there's no tax involved at all. And you can use this to reimburse any of those medical expenses. The difference with an FSA is you have to use all of the money within the calendar year. However, in HSA, you're able to grow year over year, which is why I prefer that. However, the reason why a lot of people might choose an FSA is because they don't do the high deductible insurance plan, because high deductible insurance plans mean that you pay less upfront, but then you'd have to pay more whenever you actually go to the doctor. Okay, so the final little category of this video that I'm going to be going through as this financial overview is credit cards. Credit cards can be such a blessing and a curse. The biggest lesson that you really need to understand about credit cards is they are not free money. When you use a credit card, don't think of it as credit. Think of it as that money is going to be coming right out of your account in that second. If you don't have that money, don't spend it. That's how people get in a lot of debt. And you really don't want to get into credit card debt, because the amount of interest that you have to pay on a credit card can be like up to 20%, which is an enormous amount of money. Remember I was talking about the savings accounts, and those would maybe be 1 to 5%. So if you spend $1,000 on your credit card with 20% interest rate, that's $200 extra that you're gonna have to spend in the end, and you just don't want to be doing that. So general rule of thumb, never spend more on your credit card than you'd be willing to spend on your debit card. Because I don't know about you, I'd much rather spend $200 on new clothes than on debt. So that's the danger of a credit card. But credit cards are really great for a lot of other reasons. For one thing, they add an extra level of protection between you and your money. If people steal your credit card, then they can't actually access your actual funds, because you're going to pay that credit card off later. So if people make fraudulent purchases, it's often easier to kind of undo that with a credit card. And credit cards are usually a lot more aware of those kinds of things as well, and will notify you. They usually just have more security in that field anyway. The other great thing about credit cards is you can earn a lot of rewards from using credit cards. People want you to use credit cards, meaning that you can essentially get money back on all of the purchases that you make, depending on the credit card itself. So some credit cards might do cash back, meaning you swipe, and let's say you get 1% cash back for every single purchase that you make. That's actually a very reasonable one. 1%, 2%, 3%, there's a whole bunch of different options out there. But you swipe and you get that money straight back in your account. It goes into rewards and you get an extra paycheck essentially every month. You can also use points, so maybe you spend $10 and it translates over to points, and a lot of those points you can use to redeem a lot of other things, such as like flights or travel or gift cards. There's so many different things that these credit card companies are doing to try to incentivize you to use these credit cards, and you can essentially make money by spending money, which sounds like a great option to me. Again, there's a lot more that I can go into on credit cards, but these are the basics. Okay, so to summarize, too long, didn't read. Budgeting, super important. Separate out your expenses and your savings and really make sure that you know where your money is going. Make sure that you have all of those accounts I talked about: checking account, savings account, retirement, and then a health savings account if you're not on your parents' insurance. And make sure to be really wary about credit cards, but also make sure that you maximize those and really use them to your benefit to make as much money back as you possibly can. Okay guys, that is all that I have for this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. Like I said, there's going to be a lot more videos like this coming very soon, so make sure to stay tuned for those. Bye!